Yo, what's up? My name is Patrouski. Welcome to my Pokedex completion guide for PokeMMO. Now, I'm going to essentially just give you guys a couple tips and tricks on how to complete your Pokedex in PokeMMO, because there are a couple things you want to start doing as soon as possible, but there's really no one trick, quick, easy, get your Pokedex completed in one day sort of special thing. It's really just a matter of going into the wild and catching all of the Pokemon you need. Now, it's important to note that to complete your Pokedex in the sense of the game and the eye of the game, to be able to achieve those ability patches that reward, you want to be able to have them all caught OT, not just owned. And to get a Pokemon caught OT, it means you have to have caught it at one point in the wild. Now, you can, for example, catch a Nidorino and then breed it down to a Nidoran, and then that'll count as your OT, or catch a Nidorino, for example, evolve it into a Nidoking, and then breed that down into a Nidoran, and that would count for all three caught OT completion. If a Pokemon is owned, aka has the blue square, it means you haven't leveled up an OT Pokemon into that evolution. You may have bought a Charmander off the GTL and evolved it into a Charizard, or maybe I just simply bought a Charmeleon and a Charizard off the GTL. Now, first things first, the requirements. You need tons of stuff to be able to catch every single Pokemon in PokeMMO. You want a catching Breloom with Toxic Orb and Spore and False Swipe for good consistency. You may want a Sweet Scent Pokemon. You probably want an HM friend, Dragonite, or some sort of HM friend, and then tons of Ocarinas to help you traverse the world. And you also probably want a Soak Smeargle, or maybe even a catching Parasect with the damp ability so that explosion Pokemon aren't able to explode against you while you catch them. A Soak Smeargle is great because you can turn grass types and ghost types into water types, and then that will allow you to False Swipe and Spore them. But that's enough about the formalities. Let's go ahead and actually get into the tips and tricks. Tip number one is the most simple and obvious one, but it's to abuse the Pokedex information. If you just go to a Pokemon in your Pokedex, even if you haven't seen it, you can go to wild locations and see if there are any wild locations of that Pokemon. With that information in mind, keep in mind that it's actually totally okay to go ahead and buy a Pokemon off the GTL just to get its information. So, for example, I have this Wynot, and I don't have it in my Pokedex. I don't have any information on it. But if I were to go to the GTL, buy a Wynot really quick, and then sell it back, it would actually at least log it in my Pokedex as owned. So now I can go ahead and show you guys what that looks like. So now I at least see it in my Dex, and I can go to the wild locations and see where it may be at. Alright, now this next tip is probably the most important one, and it's to prepare for Phenos or Phenomenon early. Now, I have a guide of Phenos, probably linked in the description. If it's not, make sure to yell at me and let me link it. But Phenos are essentially, they appeared in 5th gen. It's like you'll see a little whirlpool in the water, or a little rustling of dust in a cave, or a shaking grass tile. That's probably the most common one. Now, there are certain Pokemon that only appear via Phenos. Alola is a really good example. If you go to the Pokedex and it says Rarity Special next to that Pokemon, that means, you guessed it, that is a Pheno-only Pokemon. Some examples of this are things like Alola, things like Ducklet, Drillbur is another one. Now, things like Drillbur, thankfully, these can actually be caught during events as well. So during things like Halloween events, or maybe even an alpha, or some sort of Pokemon like that, there are certain swarms or other sort of niche holiday events that allow you to catch those Pokemon outside of Phenos, but Phenos are very much out of your control. You want to make sure that you either join a Discord, you can join my Discord, for example, link down below, and sign up for the Phenos role, and you'll get pings whenever there is a Pheno appearing. So you can go to that location, jump on that tile, and try to encounter that Pokemon. Phenos are by far the most difficult part of completing the Pokedex. Thankfully, I have all of mine, so I'm not worried about it. Audino is another really good example. There's just a fair bit of Pokemon that are only caught via Phenos, and if you're stuck on those for like your last couple Pokedex completions, you just literally can't complete the Pokedex until RNG plays out and until those Phenos are called to you. The best way to find out about Phenos are being in a team, global chat, my Discord, and other sort of ways like that. It's all social communication. The next tip is going to be, don't be afraid to use XP candies. XP candies can be pretty cheap at certain times, and they will speed things up tremendously. Now, using just other XP training methods like Sweet Scent with Hordes is really good, But if you have the extra cash or you want to save the time, using XP candies to level up Pokemon to quickly get those Pokedex entries is really important. A lot of completing your Pokedex is going to be XP training. A lot of it is going to be catching a Charmander and evolving it all the way up into a Charizard, and then bam, that's your completion. Or catching a Snubbull, evolving it a Granbull, etc., etc. Evolutions are a huge part of the time sink into completing the Pokedex. It just ends up being a lot of XP training. Bagon's a really good example. Getting Salamence all the way up to level 50 or so to be able to complete that Pokedex entry from an OT Bagon. Alright, and the next tip is going to be make sure to abuse the breeding system. A really good example of this is my Ducklet situation. So I have caught an OT Ducklet, but I don't have an OT Swanna. And Ducklet and Swanna, like I mentioned earlier, are Pheno only Pokemon. Now, thankfully, this does not mean that I have to wait for another Ducklet Pheno, unless I have a Ducklet on my PC, of course. This does not mean I don't have to wait for another Ducklet Pheno. What I can actually do is buy a Ducklet off the GTL, rebreed it, and then it will come out as my OT, since I have it caught OT in the Pokedex. So then I can rebreed a Ducklet really quick, level it up to Swanna, and that will count as my Pokedex OT completion. As long as you have the Pokemon caught OT in your Pokedex, the base version of it, you can always rebreed and essentially create the OT as opposed to going in the wild to recatch it. That's a super important tip, and it can save you a lot of headache and a lot of time. Alright, next up can be a little bit of a tough one. We're going to be talking about trade evolutions. It's really good to stock up on trade evolutions. So, for example, let's say that I want to do all my trade evolutions. You stock up on your Machokes, stock up on your Gravelers, etc., whatever it may be, your Girders. Stock up on all of them and then trade them all at once, and that'll save you a ton of time. I know one of the most complicated trade evolutions is, I believe, Shelmet and Karrablast, since you have to trade with a player who has each of those Pokemon. Doing both of those at the same time with someone is also really nice. So stocking up on your trade evos and then having a friend for those trade evos is really important. Now, if you're a bit of an antisocial player, that's okay, but it does just mean you need to stock up on your trade evos even more. If you're an antisocial player, you're not in a team, you don't have friends to play, whatever, you can go to global chat and find a community manager and whisper them and say, hey, I have like 5 trade evos I need help doing really quick. Do you have time? ? And a lot of the time, very often, they'll have the time. They'll be willing to come help you. And make sure to thank them appropriately, because they are taking time out of their day just to come help you, trade evo. But it is really nice. It's a really nice service they offer. And I believe that should be everything. Hopefully this guide at least taught you one tip that was useful. If it saved you some time, that's all I care about. If you enjoyed the video, if it was helpful, make sure to leave a like on the video. Make sure to subscribe for daily PokeMMO content. Follow the Twitch for streams Monday through Thursday at 12 p.m. ET. Discord is linked down below if you're interested in that, like for the pings and such, like I mentioned. And if you want to go above and beyond and support the channel, YouTube memberships, Twitch Primes, Twitch subs, and PayPal/Venmo donations do help out a ton, allow me to stay full-time, and allow me to keep trying to make better PokeMMO guides every single day. And make sure to leave a comment letting me know that I need to complete my Pokedex. I appreciate it. Have a great day. I'll see you guys later. Peace. Hey, thanks so much for watching the entire video. I really appreciate that. And if your name is on this list, I appreciate you even more. Thank you to everyone who goes above and beyond and supports my channel and allows me to make content full time. I couldn't do it without you guys. Thank you so much. Have a great day.